To call the meeting to order. So we have a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Waterfield, could you read that, please?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth
Pause the meeting for 1 second.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth.
Oh,
Okay. I'll
you don't have any.
Okay, we're good to go.
Good, okay. Could you start again, please?
Be resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth adopt the agenda for the August 26, 2025 council meetings as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor? That's unanimous. I'll read the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional home of various Indigenous peoples. As we work towards reconciliation, may we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all of its diverse peoples. Does anyone wish to declare a pecuniary interest, conflict of interest? Seeing none, I'll remind you that you can declare any point in the meeting if it becomes apparent. So, Councillor McCray, could you read the adoption of minutes, please?
Be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth adopt the minutes of the meeting of June 24th, 2025 regular council and the July 4th, 2025 special council meeting.
Thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor? It's unanimously. So the consent agenda. First of all, does anyone wish to just withdraw anything from the consent agenda?
Is there a motion on there for the garbage issue?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the consent agenda. Okay. All right. So
No? Nobody wishes to draw anything from the, Jim?
Thing that I want clarification on, so I guess we'll have to pull it, is the motion to do with the rezoning of the 14 Ward, no, not sorry, not 14 Ward, the one on Rogers Road.
2000.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, I think we had a question prior to.
81.2.
811.
Yeah.
Okay, the clerk advises me that we could just discuss that now, just for clarification.
Joanna, because I had another phone call on this. The concern that was brought up, and I've had another call about the same concern, is the way this thing is laid out right now, and I'm pretty sure that I've been given an assurance that there's no changes that have been requested for any of the buffer area to be changed. No trees cut down, no nothing. This is all internal. The burning question is, what if? And so I guess the question I'd like to ask you on it is, can we build in a proviso or a provision to state that the buffer zone must remain the same going forward, or is that allowed?
This is on? Yeah, okay, it's on. So I did try, the gentleman who left me his number, I did try calling him when I explored the subdivision agreement, and I didn't get the call back as far as I'm aware, but I did look into that about the people being, I think the statements were essentially, there is a buffer zone that's in place. It's in an agreement of some sort, and we have to all provide sign off before that can be removed. I was not able to find that in any records. The closest thing I could find that sort of made sense in my mind for how that might have been passed on through different house ownerships or just general maybe lack of understanding, is that there was a 1 foot reserve put in place. So a 1 foot reserve goes on plans of subdivision or our plans, and essentially it all is literally 1 foot, and it's a legal 1 foot of land that prohibits development from happening until such time as you go through the legal process to lift it and say, okay, I'm going to lift that 1 foot reserve. Now you can do development. So a good example of where you would use that is if you had a subdivision and then you were going to break it down into different phases, you would put a 1 foot reserve across each phase so they couldn't legally go on to their next phase without lifting it. So I hope that's clear. Anyways, it's kind of technical, but there is a 1 foot reserve along the back of those properties. That 1 foot reserve was put in place to prevent commercial and industrial traffic from being able to drive through
Sure.
or to prevent an entrance from going into the industrial lands. And to be able to lift that lift the 1 foot reserve, there had to be 2/3 buy-in from the people on that street. So there's that component, but nobody's requesting that 1 foot reserve be lifted, nor would I suggest that it's a good idea. I think that's a good thing to have in place. The other component of that is that there is a required buffer between industrial and residential, which is, I guess, effectively in place, not specifically mentioned anywhere aside from that's like it's in our zoning bylaw and it's in our official plan and in other planning related documents that those things must be done. You can come closer to a sensitive land use if you have certain mitigation measures and studies done to be able to provide for that. Those buffer zones generally happen between things like waste sites, industrial parks, anything that's a lot of noise or vibration or dust,
Mhm.
and a sensitive land use, be it a hospital or a residential neighborhood or something. So that is in existence just by nature of how it was developed, but not explicitly in any agreement. Because the developer is requesting that change from industrial to something less, which is commercial, which is considered compatible with residential uses, as in does not require a buffer. Often you see mixed use, commercial, residential. That requirement for a buffer is no longer there. I would suggest that you could attempt to put a condition like that in. It would not be defensible at the Ontario Land Tribunal if that's the direction that developer was going to go. I don't know that they would or not, but certainly without any indication that they are looking to do anything more than what they've already shown on that plan, aside from just a, sort of a little line that says proposed development area, later on. There's no indication of anything else like that. I don't think I would put myself in a liability situation of going to the OLT based on that.
So
I'm not a
yes,
lawyer.
Sorry. If I may, through the chair, the short answer is we don't foresee at this point any request for any of those trees to be cut down as part of that buffer zone. But if I'm hearing you correctly, once it's rezoned, if a request came in, we couldn't necessarily say no to it.
We couldn't say no to not having that buffer. We could potentially explore the removal of trees, but that would be based on site plan and zoning specific request.
All right. Clear as mud.
Yeah.
So this is coming up tonight on the motion, correct? So I have some comments when it comes up formally, and because I was going to bring an amendment to the motion that I'd like the council to vote on a stipulation added to this that there'll never be, the buffer zone that's currently there will never be taken away in the future for any reason. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because my understanding is the people who are developing it right now may not own it as it moves forward. And I want the next people who want to buy this property, who have any plans, to know that this council is not in favor of you taking any of the trees or green space away in the future. So that may give future owners or potential developers a heads up that this council isn't planning on. We're giving a change to zoning to help people start a business center, but I'm not giving you a chance to start a business center at the same time destroying the neighborhood that's currently there in my mind. So, and I understand about, I can't do this under Ontario zoning. I mean, in reality, we shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So it's just to give a heads up to future developers.
So has the discussion clarified your concern sufficiently? Okay. Okay, so you don't want to pull it, right? Okie dokie, so I have a question for clarification of Director McNally. There was a discussion when we, on the motion, let's see. 8.2.15 about the local loop. So there was some discussion about the tone, I guess you would say, of the local loop. And people felt that perhaps the local loop should reflect more of what council was doing. Having heard that discussion, would you be making changes along that line?
Through the chair, just sorry to get confirmation from you. You're asking for what? Sorry, for what, for the what content change?
Oh, there was a discussion that the publication did not include enough of what council was actually doing, like things people might be interested in, like when's Craig Street gonna be finished? What's happening with the golf course proposal?
So in the last, at the committee of the whole meeting, when this was presented, we did discuss capital projects or what was going on for updates. We talked about timeliness at that point, in terms of it's every 3 months and we produce the content well ahead of time, that by the time it gets published, some of the construction projects may be out of date. So we wanted to make sure that we were providing as much accurate information as possible. But what we'd like to do every December or November, December, when the last issue goes out, we do a summary analysis about all the projects that have been completed for that year and all the accomplishments through the council lens. And then in January, when the next one goes out for the beginning of every year, we then also acknowledge what's on the plans for goals for council for capital projects, any one-time operating projects, road projects. So we were seeing kind of the front end and the tail end of each year, aligning with, I think, what you're speaking of in terms of identifying what's on council's plate for the year. And then this first issue, though, is just more of a general overview to introduce the topic.
Okay, it's not a template for exactly what it would look like down the road.
No, correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome.
It's a question and next. Dave, Councillor Bird.
Oh, the one I can't see. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on a point of procedural order here. We're having discussions about stuff in the consent agenda, items in the consent agenda, which is going to be my motion shortly. And it doesn't take much to confuse me, but I'm wondering why that's happening. Is 8.1 and 8.215 to be removed from the consent agenda and then discussed?
Exactly.
Yes, please.
So that's a good question. And I think that initially there was just a point of clarification requested on one of the items. So we were just looking at that clarification prior to knowing if the item was going to be requested to be removed or if it was then going to be satisfied and passed in the consent agenda. But if anybody wishes to remove, then I think we'll move on to that.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, so I want to have 8.1 and 8.12 removed from the consent agenda.
Yep. We'll consider that shortly. So the motion, oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would appreciate if we could remove as well the bylaw that has to do with the newsletter, the loop that you have addressed. I would like to have further discussion in regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's withdrawing 8.2.15 and 10.1? 8.1. Okay, so the motion then would be to pass the consent agenda with the exception of 8.2.15 and requested, as requested, also 8.1. Discussion? Those in favor?
Yeah, we just have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so could I have Counselor Byrd read the motion to pass the,
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that the following bylaws and motions listed below in the consent agenda be passed and numbered accordingly with the exception of 8.1, 8.12 and 8.215.
thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Is the request to remove item 8.1.1 and item 8.2.15 from the consent agenda? Or is it
Mine,
also item 8.1.2?
yeah, mine is 8.1.1, 8.1.2.
Okay, and then 8.2.15. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Those in favor? Thank you. So, having done that, we will now consider the items that have been removed from the consent agenda. So let's start with in numerical order, 8.1.2.
Start with 8.1.1 and then 8.1.2.
Okay. Okay. So 8.1.1, which is the motion about 2000 Rogers Road. So
So Joanna, which one, I'm not sure which one I should add my amendment to, the first or the second one? Or does it matter?
You wouldn't want to be putting a condition on an official plan amendment, so you'd probably want it to go on the zoning bylaw. I just want to be clear, if you're gonna open this up, just for the sake of everybody. I'm not trying to be difficult, but if it does go to Ontario Land Tribunal, which I mean, I don't know, but I don't suspect it will, but in any of situation where I've made a recommendation, if council votes against that, I am not able to act on the town's behalf. So you would have to get another planner to go to the Ontario Land Tribunal to represent you. Okay, so just for everybody's knowledge.
So one of the things that the people objected to, the major thing was that what might happen in the future. But is that a valid reason for stopping something from going through what might happen in the future? I'm asking that, Joanne.
I am not here to determine what council feels is important in a political decision. My recommendation is my recommendation based on, you know, the planning documents that I have before me. So I give you my best information based on the planning documents I have. Yours is obviously a political decision based on the comments you've heard from the public. So that's not something I'm comfortable weighing in on. I can give you my planning opinion on that and leave it at that.
Councillor Bird.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I may, through the chair. Last discussion we had about this, there was a point when we discussed that the buffer zone might be able to be extended and considered still a buffer zone because there are other industrial units there. Is there any way out of this predicament and the conflict that you will have if we take certain steps here, whereby we pass something that says the town of Perth's position is that that buffer zone extends and exists as it is in perpetuity or whatever, that is the intent, that it extends. It's not going to be diminished in any way, shape or form. It already exists as a buffer zone, and that's our intent. That doesn't affect your recommendation on the zoning change.
You're putting me in a really difficult position. I don't, yes, there is a bit industrial park around it. I would suggest that the buffer zone would then be from all of the properties. Like if I had I can't even show you in front of me, but on the GIS tool, you have a lot and you can measure so many meters to a property, and typically a buffer zone is a circle. You have a big chunk of one side immediately adjacent the subdivision being taken away, which, you know, effectively broadens that buffer by the depth of the property. That being said, you know, if you took a measuring tool from the property to other industrial areas on other sides, you could argue that the buffer should be there to protect from those industrial properties, but not from the one from whom, because actually it's almost like you're making the buffer larger because you're changing that property from industrial to business park. If you see what I
Yeah, I follow up if I may, because I'm sorry to put you in this position. I'm just trying to solve things for people that actually live here. And is there ever such a thing as a residential buffer zone? Because we can measure from that boundary line.
They work cooperatively. So if I had a subdivision first and I want to come in and build a factory, I have to have a 500-meter buffer zone and vice versa. Like they both work together. No matter what you're developing, if they are opposing uses, no matter who came first, you still have to have that buffer. But you don't need a buffer between residential and business park.
Further questions?
I absolutely appreciate what you guys are trying to do, and like at a personal level, like I get it. But if I'm just being like planning professional hat on, that's my answer.
Okay,
you,
so we have a subdivision that's been there for 40 or 50 years, and the people have enjoyed their homes. It's not a business, it's their homes. It's where they're going to be 24 hours a day. I totally support the idea that people have a business park out of the old former industrial site. But I do have concerns that on one hand, we're trying to accomplish something for the town of Perth in a business point of view, but I may potentially be harming the people who actually live there for the future. And what I'm saying is, I totally understand, Joanna, this will never hold up at the Ontario Land Tribunal, what I'm trying to accomplish. But what I'm just trying to say is, if I'm the only member of council, is I want to try and keep both parties happy. And I don't want one party to suffer because another party is changing the current designation. So I don't understand why the government can't do the same buffer zone for a commercial area that we do for an industrial. I get the point of it's a totally different type of business. But I just like to make a an amendment or add additional wording to this, the council of the town of Perth recommends that in the future, the current buffer zone is never altered. And it's just a heads up to future councils if they feel the same way, or potentially whoever does take this business park over, that I don't want to see the trees all cut down because they are allowed to do it. Right? Because they are going to be allowed to do it once we pass this.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't make the motion. All I'm saying is I will not personally be
Yeah.
able to defend it.
And I'm wondering if people at the Ontario Land Tribunal, if it ever someday got there, would actually see it from a homeowner's point of view and a quality of life that, hey, these people have lived here first, they benefited by it, and all of a sudden their rights and their enjoyment of their property have been taken away just because it's just a planning law in Ontario.
The Ontario Municipal, or sorry, not Ontario Municipal, Ontario Land Tribunal looks at planning policy.
Yeah.
That's what they look at, right or wrong. That's generally what they look at. This is something that as we get more development, you guys are going to be faced with this over and over and over again. And you have been, you've had infill lots, like apartments going in with next door neighbors. You've had, anyways, you're starting to get the experience of these things happening and whose opinion matters and how do we balance this out? And it's not an easy answer, right? You want to help the residents. You want to make sure they have the right, life that they had planned on having and have enjoyed for many, many years. You also want to attract businesses to the town. If you don't have businesses, how does that work? So
Yeah.
that's why it's a political decision
Yeah, so-
that I wouldn't want to make.
So I'll make a motion, I make an amendment to the motion of 8.1.1 to add that the current buffer zone remains in its current state in perpetuity.
So who does that belong to? Does it belong to the people that own 2000 Rogers Road?
I don't know. Who owns it?
I believe the only way you could put that condition in would be to put it in as a condition in the recommendation for 2000 Rogers Road. I don't think there's another way at this point to do it.
Yeah. So a recommendation that the current buffer area remain in place. Okay.
Can I just ask a question of Joanna for clarification?
Yes, sir.
So Joanna, you were mentioning that this should be included as a condition. Is that right?
Or within the recommendations. So be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth pass zoning bylaw, being a bylaw to blah, 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 as presented in report, as it says.
And then you recommend that in future, the current buffer zone remains in perpetuity?
Yeah,
Okay, so that's the proposed amendment to the motion, but then that's all that we need in the motion
yeah.
to satisfy that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that is an amendment to the motion. About the,
Through the chair, just as a point of clarification. If we said no to this request for the zoning change, the buffer zone couldn't be changed. Am I correct?
Yeah, the property would remain industrial and that buffer zone would just inherently be there, yes.
So we all understand what we're doing here. So by passing the request, if I'm right, by dropping it down a notch in the zoning, you're saying that would allow, and the only reason why they're asking for this change is so that they can potentially help them sell the property.
Yes.
Okay, so to be clear then, by approving the change, they can sell the property, but you're saying potentially down the road, if somebody wanted to buy it and challenge what we're doing right now and went to the OLT, it would likely likely not hold water.
Correct. Or if these owners who brought this forward wanted to appeal it, they could also appeal it.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification, so we're all on the same page here. Exactly.
Thank you. Gary, Councillor Waterfield.
Madam Mayor, I've listened very carefully to the discussion and I understand the intent of the deputy mayor's motion. And indeed, if this motion passes, as has been shared by our planner, there's a very strong possibility that if it goes to the OLT, it may not pass, but I don't think that's really the point. The point is that, as I understand it, the deputy mayor wants to say to our fellow citizens, we encourage development when it's done properly. However, we want to respect the rights of current citizens within the neighborhood. So I will support this amendment to the motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll call the vote on the, we don't move it, yeah. Could I have a mover and seconder for the amendment?
Mayor, and I'll second it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I just gonna, if I can, jump in. You're saying right now in that motion, because maybe I just sort of, you're protecting the buffer zone. That doesn't mean you're protecting the trees. So if the ultimate goal is to protect, the buffer zone is literally the distance. So if you want the trees protected as well, that should also be in that
Good point.
motion.
Good point.
Included.
But isn't the buffer zone the trees?
The buffer zone is the distance.
The land?
And so also just for clarity, the second part, so the beginning of the motion remains the same.
Yeah.
And then we've added, be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth recommend that in future, the current buffer zone, including the trees, remains in perpetuity. Is that correct?
Sounds good.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne.
So, those in favor of the amendment to the motion? That's unanimous. And those in favor of the motion as amended? Again, that's unanimous. Do we need, having had that clarification, a discussion on 8.1.2?
Well, at least.
So 8.1.2 has been pulled. Is there, yes, Councillor McCray.
Thank you. The local loop is an upcoming quarterly newsletter. And I think it's important to consider the fact that the BIA is part of our loop. And so for that reason, I would really like to propose that as we move forward with the quarterly newspaper for the town of Perth, that there be integrated into that newspaper information coming forward from our BIA. There's a lot of growth happening now within our BIA. There is talk about us moving from a operating board to a governance model. And we now have a new chair, which I will speak to when I give my report. I think it's imperative. They are at length's arm of our organization, of our council, and that they have an opportunity to be a part of the loop. The other thing is if we're looking for efficiencies and ways of being more cost accountable, I think it would be an opportunity for that to be part of that. So I welcome your comments, Kathy, in regards to that.
Go ahead.
Sure. Through the chair, thanks for your comments and your insight. And I agree that the BIA is an important collaborator and partner with the town of Perth. I think part of the goal for the local loop, which is our quarterly newsletter, it's informing our residents about municipal programs, services, and events that come from the town of Perth. And so when I think about if we integrate the BIA into that, do we then bring the chamber in, right? Like, so where do I'm concerned just about the separation for that as it's coming directly from the town of Perth. So that's my feedback. This is a staff-led communication tool, and it's another tool that we're using. And so I'm just trying to balance out, what is the objective of this newsletter? And it's to inform our residents about these components coming directly from the municipality. So I don't want to disrespect, or throw away your comments, Councillor McCray. I'm just trying to think about balancing that all.
Go ahead, Councillor McCray.
The Chamber of Commerce is not a member, is not part of the BIA. The BIA is an integral part and a representation of our council. It's at length's arms. And if you look into the Municipal Act, it's right in there. And the Chamber is a totally different anomaly on its own. The BIA is the business improvement area, and it represents the downtown park area, a very important part of our council. Those people pay additional levies or fees so that they, in fact, those monies can be put in a reserve so that it can be used to vitalize our community. They have four committees. Stewart Park Festival is a very big part of that, one of the largest committees. Promotion, which is another area, they do all kinds of events, and which moving forward, I'm hoping, again, we can work more integrally or more collaboratively with our town. I think we have to look at efficiencies as we move forward. And I can't see the town spending money on, I see the value in spending the money on this particular newsletter. But then the BIA has a newsletter as well. And I think moving forward, we have to be very cognizant of cost efficiencies. And I think this is a way that we could work together moving forward.
Does anyone else have any comment? So you've heard the discussion. Given the fact that you have a master's in journalism, I consider you can sort all this out. Yes.
I would like to make a motion that because the BIA is part of at length's arms of our council and part of our community, that they be an integral part of this new initiative, the local loop.
No seconder. Councillor Waterfield. Councillor Bolt.
I'd like to speak to the motion that it's just been made. I don't think anybody around the horseshoe is saying anything different than what Councillor McCray is stating. I had a concern earlier today that the cost of this quarterly newsletter was going to be a lot more than I thought it was. I thought it was going to be like $6,000 per quarter, and I was corrected at $6,800 per year. So I felt a little better about that. But I think the content, this is just me personally, but I think the content of this newsletter can fully encompass whatever's important that's going on in the town, politically or otherwise, including information that we may have to bring forward or want to bring forward to do, with not only the BIA, but also the other entities, no matter who they are. So I'm acknowledging what Councillor McCray is saying, but I don't think we can stop the editors of this newsletter from putting content that they think is important to all people in the town of Perth whenever they decide to put it in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we have a mover in it. Oh, sorry, Councillor Waterfield.
Madam Mayor, I seconded the motion. I believe from a content point of view that on an occasional basis, having news from the BIA would be a very good idea. I'm not so sure about being an integral part of the newsletter, but certainly having content from the BIA. Also, as Councillor Bold pointed out, we as a council may want to give direction with regards to some theme for a particular issue. And indeed, on a casual basis, if an individual councillor says, hey, I've got an idea for an article, just sending an email along. So I think when we approach this, we need to be a little flexible and kind of say, hey, this is a new innovative communication tool. It complements, as stated in Chambers 2 weeks ago, our social media presence for those that are not on social media. So as we go forward, let's work with staff. Let's have some articles from the BIA. Let's have some articles as staff feels appropriate. If we have a particular issue that we want in a particular issue, the loop as a council, we can give that direction. And I think we should encourage all of us as individual councillors to make suggestions on an occasional basis. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Anyone? Oh, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I agree. But I think at the end of the day, we have a department in the town of Perth that's responsible for communications, and I don't want to step on their feet. We can't be second guessing every time we turn around. This should be in, this should be in, this should be in. Like, this is going to evolve over the next several years. I know Kathy and her team have already made some changes to it, and there'll always be changes. There'll always be ideas. I just don't want them to feel that they have to meet a specific guideline or template. I want to make sure it's fluid and as we move forward. I certainly appreciate Councillor McRae's comments because it certainly is a big, important organization, but there's going to be other people coming forward to us, I'm sure, in the future once this takes off, who are going to want to have their say. And I don't want to be tying up staff's time, telling them how to do their jobs.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Bird?
Thank you, Your Worship. To the Chair, this is a quarterly publication. It's clear that council as a whole and individual members have some concerns how it's going to roll out in future. And I'm just wondering, as it is quarterly, is there any opportunity that whatever is going to be proposed to be rolled out, council gets to see in a confidential email beforehand if they have any issues they might want included or alterations? I know you end up with several editors that way, but there's obvious things coming out that we might want the public to have a better understanding of why we've made a decision and how much time and effort we've put into it, rather than what they might get from media.
So through the chair, like any operations that we do within the communications department, we don't run our communications through council for approvals, right? Because it's an operations. So I'm surprised on council wanting to be able to see something. We don't send a social media calendar ahead of time, right? So I'm trying to find out how do we delineate that line in terms of what's the operational component of our communication. I think we have trust in our communications coordinator in terms of the content will align with the goals. This aligns with council's strategic plan to be more transparent, and that's what we're trying to help serve and support. If there's ideas that you think are important, just like for social media, for sure, we're absolutely there. But to approve our work, I would have to, I guess, have a discussion with the CAO about that.
If I could
Yeah,
comment.
thank you. It's just musing, and I'm sorry to take you both.
It's okay. No, thanks for asking.
Yes, if I could comment. We employ a number of professional staff who are trained to do their best at whatever we as council assign them. It is not council's role to get into the nitty-gritty of day-to-day operations. It's council's role to set policy. I think we have had adequate discussion on this topic. I will call the question. Does anyone wish the motion reread? No, okay. So those in favor of the
The
I think you were
amendment.
gonna say something. Those in favor of the motion?
Well, hang on. Your worship, there was an amendment proposed, so should we not be voting on the amendment first?
Seconded, which was to include the BIA.
Oh, okay, I was just treating that as a friendly.
Excuse me, could you repeat the motion?
Go ahead.
So it would be the original motion and added direct staff to include BIA related content.
That's all I'm asking for.
And the amendment.
That is the amendment, is to add the BIA related content, is which we need to pull a vote on right now.
Okay. I would treat that as a friendly amendment, but however, those in favor of the amendment. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3.
4-3.
Motion is carried. So we'll vote on the motion as amended. Now can you read the whole thing?
So I apologize. The motion that I had read was the original motion,
Yes.
plus to direct staff to include the BIA related content.
That's the amendment.
Yeah, that was the amended motion as a whole.
Okay. Everyone clear? Motion is amended. Those in favor?
Yeah,
Yes.
you've got 4-3.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Didn't we just vote on that already?
We voted on the amendment. Now we have to vote on the motion as amended, the whole package.
Okay,
Okay, everybody clear? So,
and we just did that, 4-3. Correct? Am I right?
Yeah, the motion's been passed.
We're okay to move on.
Mm,
okay. So
Thank you.
the other motion, one of the other motions that was pulled was 8.1.2, which is on the same topic as the other one, 2000 Rogers Road. Does council wish a further discussion on that topic? We still need to vote on that motion because it was pulled from the agenda. No? Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, and we'll vote on it.
Can you repeat what we're voting on here? Please?
Oh, 8.1.2
What's in 8.1.2?
is amend the zoning bylaw number 3358 to change the zone category of land from industrial special exception 2 M1-2 to business park special exception X C5XX for 2000 Rogers Road.
Okay. So I think at the beginning, we considered agenda item number 8.1.2 related to the zoning amendment, which we passed an amending motion. And then we heard agenda item 8.2.15, which was related to the local loop.
Mhm.
And now we'll consider agenda item 8.1.1, which was for the official plan amendment related to the same planning file.
But we already talked about 8.1.1.
Well, I think here, Judy, what happened is they went to the zoning because we amended the
Okay.
zoning bylaw.
All right, so the discussion was about 8.1.2.
Right.
Not point. Okay. So. Does anyone wish to discuss 8.1.1? If not, I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor McPherson, Councillor Waterfield. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. So the other item that was pulled was 8.1 sorry, 8.2.15, no,
That's what's discussed.
okay, so we want the other one. Oh, so we've done everything, we didn't pull 8.1.1. Did I right?
So, now we're going on to agenda item, 10,
Ah,
and that's where we
I can't read my own writing. All right. So the other one that was pulled from the agenda is 10.1. So just before we start discussion of that, Perth has prided itself for a number of years on being a green community, and council has been part of that. So this is a bit of a drastic change. What we need to discuss is, do we wish to make that change? And do we wish to make it now? We certainly have a system right now that's ahead of anybody else in Lanark County. There is a value of keeping stuff out of the landfill site because lack of garbage is turns into money. So I will open up for discussion. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you should move the
Yeah.
motion first.
Do you want me to go ahead and move the motion to get the discussion on the floor?
Yeah.
Shall I move the motion so that we can get the discussion on the floor? We haven't moved the motion yet.
Go ahead.
Okay, moved by myself, second by Councillor Barry Smith. Be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Perth, number one, direct staff to implement a per household bi-weekly 2-bag limit as a soft introduction to the discontinuation of annual dispersal of 40 garbage tags per household beginning in September and ending on December 31st, 2025. Number two, direct staff to discontinue the annual dispersal of 40 garbage tags per household and implement a bi-weekly 1-bag limit for curbside waste collection beginning January 1st, 2026. And number three, direct staff to bring forward an amendment to bylaw number 3215, being a bylaw to regulate the management, collection, removal, and disposal of waste material in the town of Perth.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead,
I'd like to amend the motion.
sir.
I would like to keep in number two, direct staff to discontinue the annual dispersal of 40 garbage tags per household. That's the first part of my amendment. And number two is, I'd like to amend the motion to say there will be, residents will be allowed 1 garbage bag per week for pickup.
Thank you. Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Your Worship. So since this initial discussion hit the floor, as everybody remembers, I certainly didn't support and will not support 1 bag every 2 weeks. The friendly amendment that's been made to support 1 bag per week certainly is more within what I'd like to see happening. I've spoken to countless number of people in the last 2 weeks. I feel that this was all kind of sprung on us kind of quickly. And when I've done the math and when I've had discussions with countless number of people, a family of 2 would have a hard time doing the 1 bag. I use myself as an example, and I mentioned this before. My wife and I use the green bin program to a T. We use the recycling program to a T, and there's just 2 of us, and we're still hard pressed. I mean, we can do the 1 bag limit, but we're full every 2 weeks. So from that standpoint, and I'm sure there will be many others that can. I like the friendly amendment because at least we're not now discriminating against larger families and businesses. The business I work at will never be able to do 1 bag every 2 weeks. It's just not going to happen. So what does that do? That adds extra cost on running our business. It adds extra cost on running families. It's like a hidden tax or an add-on tax. I personally feel that we have to look at a better system than the 1 bag that's been offered. The 1 bag per week, I think I can work with. Having said that, one of the things that concerns me is that if the limit is too low, what's going to happen is people are going to start throwing garbage bags into the ditches and harily-narily all over the place. And trust me, it happens. So then you've got that cost to clean that up. You've got concern about rodents and disease and so on. So we have to tread lightly here and what we're trying to do. I would like to add an addition to the amendment and I would support the 1 bag per week program, but I would also like to make additional bags more affordable. Because while $3.30 does not sound like a lot of money, I did the math and based on an average family of 6, I feel it would add at $3.30 between $150 and $200 a year to an already heavy tax bill. Let's face it, it's a tax. So I would suggest that we drop the price of the tags from current $3.30 under this proposal to say $1, $1.50, $2. Pick a number, but something that's more affordable. And the last comment I'd like to make is enforceability. I addressed this with Director Mahan. We know now, because I asked the question, that the guy on the garbage truck, he doesn't care if there's tags on the bags at all. So if we go to this system and you have to put a tag on a bag, how are we going to enforce that? And what's that going to cost us in time and trouble? So I encourage everybody to think of these things because this is a very serious matter. So yes, I will support the amendment, but I'd like to add that we'd also drop the price of the tags from current $3.30 to, let's say, $1.50.
Okay. Just adding to what you said, I'm fairly fanatical about not throwing out garbage and yeah, 1 bag in 2 weeks. Yes, you can do it, but that's a single person. And I feel sorry for families that are already strapped for money to have to buy extra tags and so on. Councillor Bird first and then Councillor Waterfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of observations. I support what's been said across the floor from you. That makes it sound like we're in opposition. No, the two councillors that spoke, I support what they say, particularly in relation to enforcement, which is an inherent problem. The other inherent problem we have with any policy here is that it's not in itself equitable, potentially, for all residents, particularly as we move forward with higher density. I sent a series of questions to Director Mahan and he's replied to some of them. And basically it's a bit nebulous. He seems satisfied that different higher density units are approximate. But again, it's not really measurable and it's not enforceable. Some of them have their waste picked up privately. I don't know if that goes to the dump and gets weighed. Sorry, waste management plant and gets weighed. I don't know. I don't, and it comes down again to equity and enforceability. Whatever we do, we have to extend the life of. It's a game of extending the life of the waste management plant because we put all the effort in, did in-house work to extend its life. And everything we're doing from development-wise and extending the population is working backwards on that project. So we have to do something, but again, whatever we do, if it's not enforceable, if it's not equitable, what's the point?
Councillor Waterfield?
I'm wondering if anybody could share with me how the cost of $3.30 came up per bag. I'm just curious. It seems like a bit of an odd number. Grant is not here. Okay. I'm guessing it's cost recovery.
I think it's just the tags have gone up over each year with inflation costs, the CPI or whatever. They used to be $2 and they just keep going up.
I think the cost now is $2 a tag.
$3.30.
No, but currently, before we bring him.
$3.30.
Okay. I don't buy bag tags. Okay, so.
If I could make one further comment, Your Worship, I just The other thing that I mentioned at our last meeting was around all of this discussion, it's very important. I mean, Grant's intentions are well-meaning. We're trying to, we are the poster child, I think, of many communities when it comes to our green bin program and our recycling program. And I think that we have to encourage people to buy into that through some education as well as we go down this road. So I think a combination of proper education, and it's like when they told everybody they couldn't smoke in restaurants. I mean, they took a lot of education to make people understand that. So I want it to be, I think it's important that we also educate and encourage. And all we're trying to do here is find a balance, because at the end of the day, if people say, I can't afford to buy those bags, and they put their bag out without a tag on it, it'll likely get picked up anyway. Just saying.
I could ask a question where it says in the first part, bi-weekly 2-bag limit. Does that mean they are collection is only every 2 weeks? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had a good discussion. I'll ask on our trustworthy clerk to read what we have ended up with.
So Deputy Mayor McPherson, you had proposed an amendment, which was to direct staff to discontinue the annual dispersal of 40 garbage tags per household and implement a per household bi-weekly 2-bag limit for curbside waste collection.
No, it was to
A 1 bag per week, they're allowed,
Okay,
is the language.
so take away the 40 tags.
Yeah.
And implement a per household.
Limit of 1 bag of garbage per week.
So is the pickup currently weekly? It's bi-weekly.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with the pickup. I'm just saying you get 1 garbage bag per week.
Okay,
which is
right. So ultimately 2 bags picked up on the regular schedule of bi-weekly. Okay, I just wouldn't want there to be confusion about a weekly pickup. Okay. So I'll just make that amendment. So, and implement a per household weekly 1-bag limit for curbside waste collection. Is that the motion, the amendment to the motion that you wish to stand?
Yes, and I think the number 3 should be included, I guess updated as the director sees fit. Bring forward amendment to the bylaw
Okay,
if it needs to be done.
perfect. So it incorporates those aspects.
So where do we end up as the number of bag tags? Still 40?
No, so we're discontinuing the annual 40 tags per year.
Okay.
And so this is the motion that Ed wishes to move. So we would need a seconder.
Okay, Councilor Bolt.
Counselor Bolt?
That's not-
So, Madam Clerk, I also proposed a friendly amendment to his amendment. And I think I said $1.50. I think $2 maximum would be fine. So if council could agree to $2 a bag instead of $3.30, I'm trying to cut down the cost for people that have to buy the bags. And the higher you make that price, the less likely they're going to come in and buy those tags. So I think the more reasonable a price, the more we can encourage them to buy those tags and to use them.
So Deputy Mayor McPherson, do you wish to incorporate the amendment? Okay. So the amendment will incorporate the decrease of the cost of a bag tag from $3.30 to $2.
Yes.
Councilor okay. Then Councilor Waterfield.
Through you, Chair, I think that Councillor Bolt also brought up a very important aspect, and that has to do with larger families. Like, will 1 bag a week accommodate a larger family. I just wonder if that's something that we want to integrate into this amendment as well. That there's one bag per family to a specific number of members. Or like, what are we going to do with these larger families? Will one bag really a week accommodate their garbage needs?
As I recall what Grant said
I'm just asking the question.
last week, they're the biggest black garbage bags. They're not the smaller ones.
98 liter, I think.
I'm sorry?
98 liter, I think, was the size of the bag that he was suggesting.
I'm just asking the question.
I know. Yes.
Perhaps for Councillor McCray, because she wasn't able to be here last week. Grant has the authority to, if people come to him and say they're having issues, he has the authority to grant additional tags at no cost. He does that for large families and for people who have medical conditions that require additional garbage bags. So I'm just taking him at his word that if someone comes in and says we're really having troubles, that he's going to help them out.
Thank you for that information. I wasn't aware of that and I appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
Hey, are we ready?
Councillor Waterfield has a question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Waterfield.
Madam Mayor, I will be supporting both amendments, but to be honest, with some mixed feelings. We are doing our best to divert garbage from the waste site and to recycle as much as possible. We as a town have taken a great deal of pride in the recycling efforts of our town. On the other hand, when this motion came up during the committee of the whole meeting, I can't speak for all of council, but I know that quite a number of us, including myself, received many emails, and I received also a number of phone calls saying something to the effect, I know the intent of the motion, but practically for a house, it's just not going to work. So a lot of the decisions we make in council have to be balanced. And this is a case of what I think is balancing the needs of citizens, particularly as Councillor McCray has stated, with perhaps larger families, and our efforts to recycle. So I do support the two motions. I do confess to having some mixed feelings, but I will support the two amendments. Thank you.
So we need a seconder for the amending motion.
So do we have two amendments or were we combining the two into one?
Combining, because Ed agreed.
So we needed someone to second the amendment.
So, point of clarification, you could probably roll that into one amendment as changed. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so I had asked Deputy Mayor McPherson if he agreed to incorporate that amendment
Yes.
and he did, so it's
That's
in
right.
there.
Thank you.
Ready, set. Those, sorry,
Seconder for that.
I thought Councillor McCray did.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry because I was not at the meeting, so I did not have, privy to the discussions. I just want to ask about from a business point of view. Like, for example, I live in the Market Square and I live right beside a business and I see the amount of garbage that goes out on a regular basis from that business. Is this specifically for residential or where does business come into this? This is just residential. Okay. I just wanted for clarification. I wanted to make sure. And do we have a plan for that? For curbside pickup, for waste collection, for? How does that work? Okay, nobody's sure, so just leave it with me. Don't worry, I will ask the powers to be in regards to business because I do sit on the BIA and that question will be asked when they see this. Okay, thank you.
So while you're at it, would you like to second the amendment?
Certainly I will.
All right. So those in favor of the amendment? Unanimous, and those in favor of the motion as amended? Again, it's unanimous. Thank you. So we go ahead to the council committee, local board and external board reports minutes, Leonard County Council. Let's talk about the delegations. I'll do a couple and you can do a couple. So our delegations from council were two, and I've sat on delegation presentations as a delegation before, and often it's like they nod and smile and you never hear anything again. But it was very positive this time around, so that's a good thing.
Okay, so I attended the AMO conference in Ottawa this past week. I attended as a county council member, and as part of that, I attended 4 or 5 delegations under the county council. I also attended 2 for the town of Perth. I want to give a shout out to Director McNally and Director Mahan. They led our group for the town of Perth. And while we haven't officially heard official status from the provincial government for infrastructure works, there was good news for Highway 7. We've been programmed, as they call it, for the Highway 7 works. But until I see the actual check from the government, I'll just hold off, because even though they'll promise us money, we know we have to be budgeted in 26 or 27 when they do the major highway works. What we asked for was an interchange for the future arterial road on Highway 7, not just a turnoff lane, but an actual intersection. So the government was pretty positive about that. I attended a delegation with Toby Shannon about Algonquin College and what we're all trying to do behind the scenes. I know the public hears a lot of things, and while we can't talk to the public about a lot of the stuff that's going on, there's a real push on for Algonquin College to be kept as a trade school. Toby was there again, gave his presentation. I think it was very well received by the members of government, and it was a large delegation. I think they were pretty blown away by so many people from Lanark County, county councilors, the entire county, as well as members of the town of Perth. So they've really got it in their ear that we want that college kept open as a private trade school. The other delegations for the county dealt with, we asked the government to review the issue of having to replace fire trucks at 20 or 25 years. Because as we know, most fire trucks don't expire in 20, 25 years, and it's really expensive. And I think that in Lanark County, all the fire departments combined, we're looking at about $20 million of replacements the next few years of trucks that probably don't need to be replaced. We're not totally sure the government can do it because they base their statistics and regulations on American standards, and it's pretty hard for Ontario to change the standard. But they agreed they would look under the reduction of red tape. Overall, the conference is really good. I attended an early morning session with the Ontario Medical Association, the head doctor of their association. She spoke about there's presently 2.5 million Ontarians don't have a family doctor. They're thinking that number is probably going to go to 4 million in the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years. She talked about all of the programs the Ontario government is now introducing to try and alleviate the program's problem. One is there's new medical schools coming online. There's one medical school coming online just for family physicians. That's the goal of the university. They're going to pay the students fees to go to school, and their what am I looking here for? The debt the students incur as they go off to medical school. The government's not asking them to say they'll work in a specific area of the province, but they will cover their debt load. That's a major change. I know the physicians, and speaking to a few locally too, they're also looking for higher wages, their time covered. The average physician spends 19 hours a week on paperwork. They want the government to alleviate that and try and come up with new ways that they don't have to do as much paperwork in those cases. I think it was a really strong conference this year. I think the people who were there, and Councillor Waterfield, you can attest this. I think the politicians were kind of letting the government know, you got to help us out here, that it can't fall on the municipalities. I think we're all in favor of everything we're doing, but when you sit at a conference and you hear them now starting to talk about it's the municipality's responsibility for social housing, we don't have the money. We don't have the power to tax that kind of money. And I'm worried that we're sort of starting to go over the edge now when the federal government says it's not their job, it's somebody else's job. And anyway, it was a really good conference. I think it was the largest one they've ever had. And there's a lot of promises out there about what we're going to try and do in the future, but we'll see if it happens. But I'm glad I went to this one because I think the county and the town were both well represented.
Yeah, the three of the sessions I sat in on, I don't know, I don't think you were in the same ones, was looking for input from people as to what AMO could do to help out in certain situations. So it's good that they're asking our opinion instead of. So the hospital board, the board has asked for funding to build a new hospital, which is definitely much needed. When I heard Sylvia Jones, the Minister of Health, speak, she certainly spoke of money for new hospitals, but we haven't heard anything yet. Climate change panel.
Climate change was canceled. There wasn't a quorum.
Yep.
The most recent one. The one previous to that was June 19th. And I think I may have already spoken about it at a previous council meeting. Can I do the HPAP as well?
Okay.
That was really interesting because Toby Shannon gave a presentation and he talked about the Red House and his vision of to restore and rebuild it. It was very interesting conversation and he got the full support of everybody listening to it.
Yes. We're certainly very fortunate to have Toby Shannon as a resident of town. OPP, Match Detachment Board.
We don't meet again until September.
Okay. Heritage Perth Advisory Panel, either Councillor Smith or Councillor Bird.
That's just been dealt with by Councillor Smith, the Heritage Perth.
He talked about Toby Shannon and the Red House.
Okay. So.
Durrell Farm.
How did
Thank you.
know?
Thank you, Your Worship. So Kathy McNally, the Director of Community Services, gave the Durrell Farm multi-phase implementation plan to our working group. Kathy will be giving a full-scale report at the Committee of the Whole on Tuesday, September the 9th, 2025. Her presentation will include the vision, and it is very much, I have to say, in line with the community surveys that were passed out. And it includes the guiding principles, community engagement and collaboration, a very, what I think, responsible financial framework that we can move forward with on a 5-year basis, long-term outcomes, and along with the well thought out plan. We all have to consider that this property we have to be very, very careful as we move forward with it because it's bedrock and it is right next to our landfill site. So we are very limited in what we can, do with this property. Kathy will also talk to the involvement of the Dog Park Committee. They're hoping to have an actual open house coming up very shortly, and the involvement of other committees and volunteers. So that will be coming forward very shortly. So at this point in time, our committee has nothing else to report until we hear back from the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. Striking Committee, Jim. Okay. The County Climate Action Group. I wasn't at the last meeting. I had a conflict.
Unfortunately, I have nothing to report as well because I was off on surgery and I guess you weren't able to be there, Judy, so I have nothing to report.
Okay, BIA.
Thank you. So as we are all aware, the business improvement area consists of 4 committees. The Stewart Park Festival is, of course, the largest committee, and we had a debriefing last Thursday evening. A number of our councillors were involved in that, and we were all required to submit a report. I feel very confident in saying that the Stewart Park Festival was an incredible success. And the planning begins for 2026 in September. And I believe it's our 35th. Is that correct, Gary? You've
Yes.
been involved with it longer than I have. I will no longer be the first aid and CPR coordinator. I've been involved as a volunteer for 3 years, 2 years as the coordinator first aid and CPR. But I have secured Samantha Wheeler, who is a firefighter and first aid and CPR instructor. So I will be passing the torch and all of the systems and all of the things that our volunteers, 20 volunteers, have put in place. And she will be beginning in September. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of those that were involved in revitalizing the emergency and evacuation plan, especially Trevor Schoaf, our fire chief, for guidance and patience along the way, Nancy Wing, who is the manager of the BIA, for all of her revisions, and our councillor David Bird for sitting in if we did have to evacuate, would take the lead. Also the sites, if we did have to have evacuations, our own library, Coates Mill, the Curling Club, the Parkside Hotel and Spa, and the administration of our town of Perth. The beautification environment is another committee, and I think you will all agree with me. There has been an incredible improvement in the flower baskets and the hanging baskets for the town of Perth. And a lot of thanks goes to the staff here for the watering and maintaining of those flowers, and also for the work between Kathy McNally and Krista Macker in, sorting that all out. They will be looking forward for sponsorships to enhance the Christmas lighting, and that's already been moved forward. In promotion, we are preparing for the weekend of October the 18th and 19th, where a number of us members, including myself, will be helping at the Women's Show in Ottawa. And Once Upon a Christmas, which is an event that's coming up, it's planned for November the 22nd, 2025. And finally, under personnel management, I am no longer the residing chair for the BIA. We have a new chair. I just was sitting in as a vacancy until we could get one, and that's Brody Barrington. I just finished chairing the 360 performance appraisal for our manager with a wonderful group of members of the BIA board, and we are looking into moving from an operational board to a governance board as part of our strategic plan. The other thing is that you will probably, if you haven't already received, will be receiving under the direction of Kathy McNally and also Nancy Wing. They are sending out a survey asking for input from council members on the strategic plan. And I would really appreciate everybody engaging in the input for that. Thank you.
Alrighty, going from BIA to Chamber of Commerce.
So the Perth and District Chamber of Commerce, there was no meeting in July, so I have nothing to report. They had a very successful golf tournament, made lots of money, and our next meeting is tomorrow afternoon, and I have nothing to report in regards to that.
Yep. Over to you, Councillor Waterfield. Public Library.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. A couple of things. I also attended the AMO conference. It indeed was the largest ever in the history of the organization. More importantly, the consistent theme that I really saw through delegations, through plenary sessions, and also through the smaller breakouts, a strong message to the provincial government that the current funding model for municipalities just is not working. And during the 3 days of the conference, the provincial government heard that loud and clear. And it's one of the key action items of AMO during the next couple of years to drive that to the provincial government and do their best to lobby our provincial government to really, really look at the current funding model. We know here in Perth, It's going to be challenging financially in the years to come. And when we look at the various costs that we're going to be incurring, we are not alone. There's over 400 municipalities experiencing that as well. So that really was consistent throughout the conference. Number two, Madam Mayor, through you, I would just like to thank Councillor McCray for your superb contribution to the Stewart Park Festival. I know that you're no longer with the festival. You just resigned at our last meeting. I'm a longtime volunteer. I thoroughly enjoyed working with you, and I sincerely thank you for your contribution, which I think was above and beyond. So thank you very much. With regards to my reports, I'll begin with the library. On June the 25th, I attended the Indigenous Advisory Circle. We had a great discussion about an event called All Our Relations, which was held in Last Dual Park, and it was really a wonderful forum on looking at the environment through the eyes of our Indigenous citizens. I attended that particular event, and it was fantastic. We also had a discussion around a 2026 art display from Indigenous artists as well. So that was the key points during that particular meeting. Would you like me to continue with my other
Please.
reports? With regards to the RBCA, on July the 21st, we had an executive meeting in the afternoon. We had a board meeting that evening. We went through our 6-month financial report. Also, we had a presentation from staff with regards to the 2026 60th anniversary celebrations. So next year for the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, it's our 60th anniversary. It's going to be a very, very exciting year to celebrate conservation for 60 years in the Rideau Valley. Just recently, August 13th, I attended the Traffic Advisory Working Group meeting. We discussed in detail action steps that are going to be taking place for the automated speed enforcement on county roads in community safety zones in 2026. And going through that list, it's a long list. Realistically, that's not going to happen until I would anticipate late next year at the earliest. We also, as is normal, had a number of requests for speed management alterations throughout the county. That's my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bolt, could you read the motion to accept those reports?
I move by myself and seconded by Councillor Gary Waterfield. Here we go. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Waterfield. Be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Perth receive the Council Committee, local boards and external board reports and minutes as presented.
Thank you. Those in favor? It's unanimous. Questions from the media?
Not so much question, but to let you know, we received a suggestion yesterday from Crystal in the communications department that I interview Director Mahan on the garbage issue. And I'll do that this Friday to create some informative pieces to help spread the word about the new change.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have to keep people informed. Next meeting date is Tuesday, September 23rd at 5:30. And we have no closed session. So we need someone to move. Well, actually, we need Deputy Mayor Ed McPherson to move the number 19, the confirmation of proceedings bylaw.
Sure, and if you don't mind, I just want to make a comment. This morning I received a phone call from a resident and they kind of asked me what the update was on Drew Farm and how the committee was working and all. So I appreciate the update. One of the questions I got was, who sits on the committee? How did we determine who sits on the committee? And how does the committee present to council? And I said, usually all committees, all things like this, it's the director who's responsible for that would do the final report and do the final presentation to council. And I did reach out to our clerk because I said at county council, we have members of the public on our committees and we have members of council. Only members of council speak at the council meetings. Despite the person's position on the committee, they don't speak at the council. It's either the council members or the director themselves. And I wasn't sure, we have kind of a different committee there with Drew Farm, how that's going to work. But I did reach out to Amanda just to try and get some, we don't have any ironclad language in the town of Perth, but I do think in respect of our director, she should be the one writing the final report and doing the presentation to council as they do for every other report and thing we could receive at council, so I wasn't sure how that was going to work.
Councillor McGrath.
Well, thank you for bringing that up because I wasn't aware of that. But my understanding is that the presentation is the preamble is going to be given by the chair. And then the remainder of the presentation is going to be given, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Bird, you were at the meeting, and the remainder of the presentation will be given by Kathy McNally. Does that meet with the requirements or the protocol for our council, Amanda?
So as Deputy Mayor McPherson mentioned, there are no rules that specify or regulate specifically whom from the committee or staff, et cetera,
Gives the
have the
delegation.
ability to present.
Mhm.
I know in the past, with other various staff reports provided, that we have had other people, other attendees in conjunction with the director providing or speaking to a report. And my understanding is that the motion that was passed at the Daru Farm Working Group was that the chair of that group would be providing an introduction to Director McNally's staff report.
That's my understanding, a preamble, introduction. Yep. Does that meet with the protocols of our
So
council?
we don't have anything dictating a requirement otherwise. So I would say in this case that it's not contravening any existing policy that we have.
So are you okay with that? Okay, Ed? Okay, thank you.
So I'll move the confirmation of proceedings bylaw number 5231, confirmation of proceedings for August 26, 2025, moved by myself, second by Councillor Bird. Be resolved the Council of the Town of Perth passed bylaw number 5231, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Perth at its meeting held on August 26, 2025.
Thank you. Discussion, those in favor? It's unanimous. And Councillor Smith, the motion to adjourn.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth adjourn the August 26, 2025 council meeting at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Those in favor?